Summer's flying by, and before you know it, fall will be here. Cool season grasses love both spring and fall, however fall is the greatest time for renovation. So you might think it's a little bit too early to start thinking about that, but really it's not. Today I'm going to be talking about my plan for the fall and what I'm going to be doing in my yard, and also give you an update on what's been happening in the last couple weeks here in central Iowa. First things first, let's talk about what's going on currently. We have a mild drought going on right now here in central Iowa where I am located. We had about a week or so of 100-degree temperatures, and we haven't had rain of any significance for quite a while now, so this is very, very difficult for cool season grass to withstand. I have my backyard holding on just barely right now as far as green, but the front yard and the side yard I decided to pretty much just give up on right now and let them go dormant. The reason for this is, if you remember from a few videos back, we had a hailstorm at our house and we have to get our roof replaced, we have to get siding replaced on our house, and because of that I know that construction crews are going to be here at some point trampling on the yard. I was thinking about fully renovating my side yard this year, however when that hailstorm happened and I knew that we're going to have a lot of work going on, I just don't think it's possible this year. So what I'm going to do this year is hopefully do a similar program to what I did last year, and I'm going to do a video step by step of every single thing that I'm going to do to renovate my lawn for the fall season. So I'm waiting for those construction crews to get done, and hopefully that's going to be in a timely fashion before we get too far into the fall season. I'm hoping that it'll be right around September 1st or a little bit after when I can start. And that's going to kind of determine what grass I'm going to be overseeding with just because of time frame. I would like to put down some more Kentucky bluegrass. However, if we get too far into the fall, I know that that's going to take a while to germinate and it might not be the best option at that time. I have some perennial ryegrass that's left from last season that I used that I'm going to be using this season as well in some fashion because I need to use it before it gets old. So in some way I'm going to be renovating the front and side yard with some new seed. I just don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing with that yet. So now let's go over a brief overview of what I'm going to be doing this fall. And again, I mentioned I'm going to be making a video piece by piece on what I'm going to be doing, but this will give you an idea if you're trying to get some planning started here on your own yard of what I have in mind for mine. First thing I'm going to do is begin to mow a little bit shorter gradually over time. Now if you've been mowing tall for the season, so you don't want to just cut this down quickly, but over time I want to go a little bit lower and a little bit lower so that when we're ready to renovate and aerate and do all those things, then the grass won't be too tall and we'll be ready to prepare it for the seeding. Next thing that's likely for the renovation is going to be dethatching. Last year I just raked up my areas and I really didn't go through and remove all of the dead stuff. I really had fine results with doing that, but this year I might go one extra step and I might consider just getting something powered to go ahead and go through these areas, tear out all the dead stuff that's happened this summer, and that way we'll have a good seed bed to start with. The next thing you want to do, which is actually one of the most important things to do, is prepare some sprinklers. If you're going to do all the seeding and prep work and then you don't have proper irrigation on it, then there's really no point in doing it to begin with. Last year I made a video on an above ground system that I've been using in my yard, and I used it last year for seeding, but this year I've also been using it in my backyard when I've been watering. I've noticed a big difference in my backyard this year compared to using an impact sprinkler that I used to use. So I'll make another video about this sprinkler system when we get to that part of the seeding. Make sure you have something that can cover your area so that you can water it multiple times a day very lightly, make sure things don't dry out. Speaking of water, when we near the time when we're going to be ready to do some aerating, we're going to have to start watering this ground ahead of time so that it's soft enough that we can pull some cores out of there. Right now with my yard being the way it is, it's super dry and the ground is pretty tough right now, so I'm going to have to start watering that closer to the time that I want to do that aeration. Otherwise the aeration is really not going to work as well as it should. So make sure you water things to soften it up right before you do your aeration. Next step right before that aeration as well is to mow off the grass as short as you feel comfortable. Last year I went down to about 2.25 inches on my yard, which really isn't that short when you think about it. This year I might try to go a little bit farther with that, I'm not sure. Some people suggest to scalp the grass down really short. I've never done that really to the point of complete scalping, so we'll see what I decide when I get close to that part, but keep in mind you will want to mow as low as you possibly can before you do the aeration and the seeding. Then it is time for the actual aeration itself. This part you could probably have hired done if you are not feeling up to it. This I like to try to do myself just so that I know exactly how many passes I've made, and I try to get into some of the areas that maybe if you had it hired out, they're just going to kind of do a general aeration on your yard. This step has worked very well for me in creating those holes and pulling the cores out, and it just creates a good seed bed down there to get some new grass seed in. From there we actually put the seed down, and then if you have any really bare areas that don't have any cover on them, I like to put a little bit of peat moss on top of that, just to make sure that it holds in some moisture and birds don't eat all the seed. After this, we're going to want to put some starter fertilizer on. Last year I actually didn't do it at the exact time of seeding. I waited a few days and that worked okay, but this year I'm probably going to attempt to get it all done at the same time so that when I begin watering and when the seed begins to grow, it's going to be using that starter fertilizer at that time. Then after that is probably, again, what I mentioned, the most important part, which is watering, watering, watering. Again, you're going to have to be prepared for this watering because this is the most important step to make sure that the seed grows. A lot of people put down seed and they just forget to water it, or they get lazy or whatever happens, and then they don't have the results that they expected. You definitely cannot let this seed dry out, so water it multiple times a day. Look at your weather, see how warm it is. Hopefully you get some rain during this time to help you out a little bit with that. But if you don't, you need to keep up with this every single day until you're able to mow a few times, and then you can kind of taper your watering down just a little bit at that point. But again, watering is super important. One thing to keep in mind as the last step is to make sure that you have a sharp mower blade ready as well. And you want to make sure that if possible, you can use a light mower to walk on this grass while it's still in kind of a very delicate stage. So if at all possible, make sure you have a sharp mower blade and see if you can maybe use a small push mower for the first couple times that you mow. Those are the steps that I'm going to be taking for my fall lawn renovation. As I mentioned, it's only really a few weeks away now, so it's a good time to start doing your planning. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.